Splendid. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You've survived another week of lockdown. Congratulations. I think you all deserve a particularly nice gin and tonic or beer or wine or whatever you've got on your desk in front of you. So today we have an excellent topic, one that is with me a lot of my day, looking at effective asset and facilities management, looking at how BIM enables that. And it's certainly a topic that I had hoped that the UK would have tackled more 10 years ago when we started our BIM journey. And I think the facilities side, the asset management side was sort of left behind in our race to play with pretty pictures and play with spreadsheets. So I'm really, really pleased to have Olli here from ReBIM. Hi Ollie, how you doing?
Hi everyone, how you doing?
And as usual, we have Stuart Young in the driving seat, who has been organising these sessions. Thank you very much, Stuart. They've certainly been the highlight of my week, every week to meet some of the guys and girls. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Ian.
To get together, have a BIM beer, have a innovations beer, have a chance to chat with like-minded friends in the innovations and construction industry space. So what I'm going to do is I will hand you over to Stuart, who's going to give you a few little pointers about today and also one of the projects, I think it was, Stuart, that we talked about last week.
Yes, we've got a little bit to mention on that. So for those that don't know, I've looked through the attendee lists, and whilst pretty much everybody is familiar with what Comet is and what Comet does, we are a collaboration platform. We are a community of members and like-minded individuals. We put together the Friday afternoon happy hour to continue our association with the membership, bring people together, and deliver some educational topics that can help us improve productivity. So for those that are not familiar, get yourselves a look at the website. Everything that we discussed today will be posted up there as soon as it's downloaded and saved. I also want to just mention the project that has started. We had a briefing this morning. For those that want to get involved, this is a COVID-19 project. It's in response to the pandemic. It's a trace facility that will help the construction industry through the situation for the next several months and beyond. We've looked at a couple of opportunities where we can work with contractors and large organisations who are associated with the capital build or capital build programmes. So if you're interested, get involved. We've got a few people that have signed up for that already. We're looking for partners and users that can help steer. There might be a couple of gems or nuggets that can help the project or enable the project move further forwards. It is early doors, so there's an opportunity to shape that and well, move it into a project for success. Talk about the session today. We've got an opportunity to ask questions. I'm sure there will be some questions, and I'll just quickly skip through this. There's two options to ask questions. You can either raise your hand, which you can see on the right hand side of the screen. There's a little hand button there. You can push that, or you can type a question into the questions tab and I will ask it at the end. Some people don't want to be open mic'd. That's fine. The option's all yours. And for those that want to stay a little bit longer and an even more relaxed atmosphere at the end, we've got a lock-in to continue the conversation in the pub. That lasts usually about half an hour till everybody's run out of questions, and that will be after the hour is up. So you're very welcome to stay behind for that. And those again that want to ask questions, but directly, they can I can unmic you and we can chat amongst ourselves. So moving into today, I want to talk about the initiative that Commit has, Commit to Productivity. Everything that we're doing here is supporting improvements in productivity, but we always ask the question, what does productivity mean to you? Do you have the means to improve productivity? And what else is out there making a difference? What you'll see today is an opportunity to improve productivity Ollie I won't steal any thunder from Ollie, but Ollie will take you through that and give you an idea of just how you can add value. The other question I've got, or question I've got for you, is if you have any thoughts and ideas about any other future sessions, or even any suggestions that we can add to our productivity circle, then again, please do get in touch. The project that I just mentioned was developed on the back of some suggestion of helping the industry. Now, if you see closely what's involved in that, there are actually spin-offs or bonuses that we can use in the industry to help manage safety and the workforce in a better way. But again, you're encouraged to have a look at that if you can. So I've got a slide that's stuck, I beg your pardon. So that's the circle I talked about. Now, we've delivered several projects now that cover a few or all of those. We are developing the Commit to Productivity initiative. There are some things that are quite emotive. I mean, particularly down the channel of project controls, that there's lots of opportunities to improve things there. It's the single biggest issue when I talk to contractors. You know, how can we improve what we do in respect of the controls we have currently on our projects? But there's a few other areas as well that we'd like to help organisations move further forwards with. I've got a question mark one at the top there. There's other suggestions people have got to include that we might want to have a look at. So the door's open. But yeah, please do get in touch. I'd really like to hear from individual companies or organisations that want to improve productivity. So slide stuck again. I mentioned about continuing the conversation at the end. If you want to stay behind and have a chat, very informal, please do. So on to today's session. Thank you very much to Olli for joining us today. As Ian mentioned, it's BIM, enabling effective asset management. The facilities, it's a very important subject, and it seems to be more and more talked about. Well, again, I'm not going to steal Olli's thunder and talk any more about it. I'll let him do that. He's the professional. But to introduce Olli, Olli, as he's an operations director with ReBIM. He's experienced in the elicitation and requirements and management of complex stakeholder needs to facilitate the development and deployment of suitable asset management systems and solutions. Now, I'm going to do the transfer now, Olli, and change that to you. If you want to add any more to what I've just said, then it should all be yours.
Sure, no problem. I will just.
Okay, over to you.
Fantastic.
Oliver.
Right, just bear with me 1 second, just get my screen up and going.
Okay. Yes, we can see that.
1 second to get that second screen up. Okay, yeah, so just to add on that piece, just on the introduction element. So started my career off with a small company called Atrium Software, which was based out of Portishead outside of Bristol. So Atrium Software concentrated on building specific asset management applications for Network Rail. They had a range of clients as well in the local education and council authorities. So they really good in terms of the maintenance application they bought, and quite ahead of their time for what they were delivering. They were then acquired by Trimble. So Trimble is a conglomerate that focuses on real estate, asset management and engineering. They bought Atrium for its asset management and maintenance capability, specifically in the rail and investment side. So essentially, it's an asset management system that can do an awful lot of things. So I learned a lot about that in that area. I then went on to discover my interest and passion in BIM, which then led me on to start my career, move on to the second company, which is Planon. So Planon is an integrated workplace management system, and what that does is it essentially consolidates all the maintenance activities into one common data environment. It's not inclusive of BIM, but it does enable asset management stakeholders to basically run their portfolio a lot more effectively by consolidating all their maintenance operations into one area. So some of the clients that I worked with in that space were rail, education, and defence. So as a functional consultant in that company, designing specific applications or configuring the application for their needs and requirements. So that was particularly useful. That again enabled me to develop more knowledge around BIM. So I got more and more passionate about BIM and the capabilities and possibilities of using that tool. Then after that, I moved into management consulting. So looking at some of the sort of the strategy pieces around asset management, what can asset management enable? So I worked on a European train control system, looking at deploying asset management technologies for new technologies that would be integrated onto British Railway. So quite a broad hierarchy, quite a lot of areas covered in terms of asset management. And then moved on to Hinkley Point C, where we look at the information management strategy for asset management, deploying systems, what the data flows, how can we deploy suitable systems for that. And Andrew and myself, so Andy Holt, the company founder of ReBIM, have been working closely together, very similar in terms of what our objectives and what our aims for, both for the company and for what we see as the vision for asset management technologies. So just one bit I went over really quickly. In terms of the actual asset management systems I've worked with, I've always found that there's a very, very good crossover, very broad crossover in terms of the data strategies and the data templates that you can use from asset management systems and facilities management systems. So what I mean by that is, if you get your information management strategy right for asset management and facilities management, and you onboard the correct people at the right time, you'll save yourself an awful lot of work down the road, and you have huge benefits, huge benefits. So the purpose of today's presentation is to discuss the information strategy behind that, what it enables, what the benefits of it, and what the technologies, what the benefits of for the technology providers who embed and enable that for their clients and customers. So on that piece, I will then go on. Can everyone see my screen all right? Yeah, okay. Okay, so I'm sure you're all fully aware of what BIM is, but if you're not, it's essentially a set of tools and processes that can be used to run and configure and build an asset from design to the operational phase. So what we're looking at essentially is, in this presentation, is we're concentrating on the final phase. So once your asset has been simulated or built in 3D, and the various stakeholders from architects, engineers, and constructors have come together, and they've built that federated model. When it comes to handing over to your asset and facilities managers, it's about how do we ensure that we've got the right information strategy to enable an effective handover that, so the BIM model supports what the asset and facilities managers want to do once they receive that asset. So what we're going to talk about is how can we design and future-proof our information strategy for that. Okay, so go on to the second slide. So if we look at the 7 elements of construction, so we've got the brief, the definition, the concept design, technical design, the construction, and then the handover when it goes into asset and facilities management. An awful lot of room there to design in the right information management capabilities and skills that can be basically influenced by all the AEC stakeholders, so architects, engineers, and construction offerings. So what we're going to do here is within this presentation is we're going to concentrate on how can we maximize this. So the use case for this is primarily the cost. So the operational maintenance costs can be as much as 80% of the total life cost of an asset, which is, it's huge. I mean, the grounds to influence really good information strategy is kind of like almost a no-brainer. You need to, this should be considered as an industry initiative, and I think the industry is waking up more and more to this and why it's so important. Okay, so I'm just going to touch on what some projects have revealed recently. So there've been quite a few BIM projects where the asset is being constructed and it's being handed over to the client, or being handed over to an organization who represents the client, and the client often thinks, well, this is great, I've got a very good BIM model, it might tell me where things are in the asset, where my rooms are, where my spaces are, but what do I do with it? So how is it that relevant? So I've just summarized some of the issues that we've got. So we've got information isn't always relevant to the client if they've received this new BIM file. There can be huge amounts of data that aren't necessary or important to the client or to the FM and asset management team who've been assigned the role and responsibility of maintaining that asset. Likewise, the technology as well. So the BIM model might be held in several disparate systems. It might have different bolt-on technologies. There isn't a clear line of sight as to what the benefit of using this BIM model is for all the stakeholders who will run and operate the asset at handover stage. So that there isn't a really good understanding of how we can maximize and maintain and really use all the effort that's gone into the development and design of the BIM model. So essentially, these are some of the core areas. And like I said earlier, you know, people don't really, there's sort of a misunderstanding of what BIM is. Some people think it's just a design of a building, or it's just a 3D representation of a building. But when you start talking about the possibilities and capabilities that BIM can offer, not only for constructors, but also for asset operators, it's incredible. Has anyone got any questions? I appreciate I'm rattling through this quite quickly.
No, all good at the moment, Ollie.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing any questions in the poll.
Okay. Okay, so we have worked, we've worked on a few projects. We've seen a few projects where it's sort of been a retrospective thought. So the BIM model is compiled, it's handed over, it's federated, but again, the asset and facilities management attributes, so the information strategy behind it, haven't been considered. So there are ways we can fix it. It's not our recommended approach, but we'll cover some of the ways that we can do a retrospective update. So what we can do is we can say, you know, talk to the asset and facilities managers. What attributes would you like to focus on? So would you like reactive maintenance, planned maintenance, condition monitoring, space management, IoT? We can ask them that, and then we can then apply those attributes afterwards. If they have received a BIM model which doesn't contain useful information for them, we can carry out a cleansing exercise to make it ready and align to what they're trying to do. And likewise, if they have got bolt-on systems and technologies, we can start looking at other means to interface all that data and the cleansed data into a common data environment which everyone can use and access. So these are possibilities. It's not a recommendation, but it is something that we can do. So the client receives a BIM model, not fit for asset facilities management. We can do these three things, but essentially what we're saying is, if you want a BIM model that will enable certain asset and facilities management capabilities, we can build that for you, and we've got the correct information management strategy and understanding of what can be done and what can be facilitated in terms of your asset management and facility management requirements. So our recommendation, let's go on to the next slide. So what we're saying is we suggest that you work with and you elicit all your requirements. So before the project's even begun, so you talk to all your asset management stakeholders, you find out what your organization is trying to do, you find out what your employers or any stakeholders associated with that industry, whether it's from a maintenance perspective, whether it's from a political, anything to do with your requirements of your organization, that they all are considered into your information requirements. Now, my focus on this has always been around asset and facilities management, but you know, the horizon is just broadless. You can incorporate as much as you want. But when we focus on asset and facilities management, if you get your information strategy correct, you can do, you know, it's endless, it's limitless. So our recommendation is to concentrate on these three. You might have seen these being talked about quite a lot through LinkedIn and the various other channels. So EIRs, AIRs, OIRs, in order to really yield and benefit from these requirements that are considered or implemented in the BIM environment. We suggest one CDE, which is scalable, modular and configurable. So once you've embedded the correct information strategy behind that, so the correct data, you can then start to segment what your asset and facilities management requirements are. So you can say, I want a module for reactive maintenance, I want a module for planned maintenance, and so on and so forth. So by doing that, so by getting these right, you will then enable your asset and facilities management capabilities going forward. So once that's been embedded, your platform can then facilitate a range of these functions here, which we'll come on to. Have you got any questions on that?
No, I think that's good. So a quick question on the OIR wise. It's a project that I'm starting to kick off a little bit more with various client organisations at the moment. How are you tracking and how are you dealing with organisational information requirements?
Yeah, sure. There are several ways to do it. I mean, you know, in terms of if you're just using those Excel spreadsheet, we wouldn't recommend just doing that. But there are means to capture those requirements by asking the right questions, by talking to the relevant people, by finding out what the organization is and what it wants to achieve. So, for example, Network Rail, an old client of mine, not necessarily in terms of the BIM context, but in terms of what they want to do. So, you know, certain passenger footfall on this platform, how does my fabric need to adhere to that? So you've got that traceability through that, and then you link that to your asset management capability as well, and then build that into the model. So you've got got a line of sight throughout. So those are all.
Sorry. So you're sort of kind of like linking those high-level organisational outcomes all the way down through the various aspects down to the performance of individual assets and such.
Yeah, and you can start to forecast what it is that you want that asset to do. So there was I'll just talk about it really quickly. So there was an asset management system developed by Atrium Software, which basically is a forecasting tool. And if you get the data right, you could basically import BIM data into a similar tool to start forecasting what my asset's doing. So one of them was used for determining if certain premises should be shut down, depending on how they're performing. Do I shut it down or do I build another one? So that's the sort of thing you can enable with the correct information strategy. So just conscious that I haven't got too long left, so I'll go on to the next slide.
Thank you.
No worries. So this is what can be achieved. So these are some of the functions capabilities that can be achieved. So it's very closely linked to asset management systems, CMS, CMMS, and CAFM systems. Again, if you know some of these systems and know some of the functionalities that these systems offer, and you know the data behind them, you can certainly configure a BIM model to achieve all of these. So a few years back, I was playing around with some imports into a CMMS and linking it to BIM models, and I was able to look at some of these functions. So reactive maintenance, planned maintenance, condition monitoring, reporting, and then even down to mobile working, again, depending on what you want to get out in terms of your fleet management or workforce, what have you. So I think the message I'm trying to get across here is the information management strategy, the capabilities and potential for this is huge. If you get that right, you won't have to do retrospective updates to the data. It will drive huge benefits. So in terms of ReBIM, what we do is it's a scalable modular CDE. We advise our clients on a range of different issues from construction to handover, and then once in handover, how do we maintain and ensure that the asset is run effectively and well and in line with the organization requirements. We can then configure the application in line with the requirements of the particular organization, and we can focus on these areas and also look at multiple more areas depending on what it is, because the industry and the technology is moving so quickly, but we can certainly facilitate some of these. And these are some of the areas that we've got a lot of interest in from our clients. We've onboarded 3 or 4 new clients in the space of 5-6 weeks, just looking at some of these areas. So this is something that information management is really important and really key. Just conscious that I haven't got much longer on this, so I'll go into
Don't worry, Ollie. There's time. You can cover it.
Okay.
There's no
Right.
time. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So if we talk about some of the asset and facilities management capabilities that you can facilitate with a good information strategy, we've got a couple of videos and we've got some examples here. So we've got in the application itself, we've got we can link live data feeds. We've got an option within the tool to link to hardware systems if they are configured. We can work with people to configure their particular sensors. And in the module, in the application itself, there is the ability to do all sorts around that. Condition reporting as well, so closely linked to asset and facilities management. We can do a range of things around that, so link on-site pictures to modules within the application for condition maintenance, so plan maintenance or reactive maintenance. So if I just go on to the next slide. So what we're saying is we've got the particular component in the BIM model here. We've raised that there's an issue with it. So we've either found out that through an on-site inspection or someone's phoned up and said there's a particular issue with this component. So we found it in the BIM model, we've linked to it in real life, and then what we'll do is we can then assign that to the actual asset itself, and then assign it to somebody else to inspect. So Andy, he's linked a photo to a component or an asset. He's then logged out. He then assigned it to someone else to inspect. So the other user would then click into it, find the issue, and then they can then see that there's a particular problem with this component here. So, and the really powerful thing about this is you've got traceability end to end. So when it's handed over, essentially you've got like a task panel or a breakdown or like a history panel for each component, so you can see exactly what's happened. You can attach PDFs to it, you can attach work orders to it, you can start scheduling jobs for particular components and assets. You can do reporting on it. You've also got the ability to, it's not on this screenshot here, but you can also look at talking to other colleagues with our chat system as well. So just go onto the next step, which is our an example of where we have created an asset information model, a really powerful way to see what's going on in terms of all your assets, where they are. And one of the principles that we really firmly believe is the ability to find something in 5 clicks or less. So the software is really powerful in terms of what you can do. So you can enter a component, the component serial code, search by a type, search by a specific asset code. You can find information really quickly, really easily. You can find information attached to a component or asset really quickly and really easily. And it's just a really powerful way of navigating and seeing assets depending on what you want to do for that particular day. So in this example, we're navigating around the train station. We've got quite a rich information panel here for that component. We can carry out another search here. We find our asset. we've got, so this is an asset code for ramps. We've got all the information we need. And then just on that, you'll see at the bottom here, we've got a really good opportunity to do more functionality where we can mark up images and components for inspections and so on and so forth. So information management, particularly important for what we're trying to do. Just on this piece here, what we're doing is we're saying we've got a breakdown of all the components within our BIM model. So this wheel is emphasizing that you can query how many, say, asset code, or how many bins you have, or how many precast parts of the platform you have. How can you find things quickly and easily? What's the quantity of them? So you can all do that, and that can all be enabled through this tool. So really powerful tool. If you've got any recommendations, or if you've got anything that you'd like to discuss with us, or any questions or queries about what the tool can do, please feel free to get in touch with myself and Andy. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to cover. Just 2 minutes over, so try to keep it to the half an hour.
You're okay, that's fine. That was very informative.
That was excellent. Thank you very much, Olli. Really good indeed. Certainly, since I saw the very early days of ReBIM, I can't remember how long you guys have been around now. Must have been 5, 6 years, something like that, is it?
Is Andy on the call? I think it's, yeah, between 5 and 7. Yeah.
Something like that, anyway.
Yeah.
But the amount that you've been able to achieve in that amount of time is very impressive. It's looking very good indeed.
That's great to hear.
One question I've got, Olli, is asset legacy systems, incorporating those into one system. You know, is that a fairly straightforward operation, or is it complex? Is it very complex?
I think it depends on what it is you're trying to export. So I've dealt with applications before where you can export a component or an asset quite easily, but then it's all the legacy information that's attached to the asset. So you might have invoice records, or you might have tenant records if it's to do with tenure and estate management. It really depends. I mean, the ultimate goal is to have a system that can do everything, because you know, as you said, Stuart, as you alluded to, you want a system that basically replaces all your other systems and enables your core system to run much more effectively without interfacing to other applications.
Yeah.
So yeah, to answer your question, it is possible, but it really depends on what you're trying to do. And in a phased approach, you know, you can do all sorts, but it depends on resource and what your requirements are.
Okay, thank you.
So all that data that you're bringing in, are you is that being stored in some sort of I don't know, SQL, whatever external database that's being read by the system you've got there, or is that all put into this proprietary? What I'm talking about here is getting into that sort of interoperability type world of how other systems will be able to extract information out and use that if necessary.
Yeah, so the actual backend, the real technical details, I don't know enough at this stage. I've recently joined. I'll be honest, but I can certainly find out for you. As far as I'm aware, everything is held in the application. It's microservice architecture. It's not. I don't think it's SQL or anything. It's all the data is held within the application. It's all modular, and it can be queried really quickly and easily. In terms of interfacing with the systems, we've got an open API, so we can talk to other applications, we can push things, we can pull things, and we're looking at doing that with some of our clients at the moment. Some of the things we're doing is SharePoint integration, and that's working really well, because we can basically host a BIM model in SharePoint, and also convert the BIM model in SharePoint, so it shows an IFC model in SharePoint, and you can do other things with that. So link assets to it, drop components onto it. So that's another opportunity for people who might not have access to your typical BIM tools.
Yeah, I think that's really sort of what I'm sort of getting at there, is that there was a question, I think it came up in the BIM Alliance conference yesterday about, was it in the conference or some of the discussions afterwards, but basically about the fact that there's a lot of systems and tools out there trying to cram all their information into their own tool, which unfortunately means that other tools and other people can't use that data, because you've spent a lot of time, effort and money generating that information and making sure that it's good quality and it's secure and X, Y, Z. But then you're restricting it to only one type of user. But having that open API, that sounds really good, that other people can have access to that data without having to have, you know, the ability to navigate around a CAD tool or whatever that might be. Because it might be a finance person, they just need to query something, but they'll have no idea how about navigating around a CAD tool or anything like that. But to have that specific asset linked to part of their purchase ledger or their financial projections or whatever it might be, massively powerful and very important.
Yeah, completely
so
agree.
That sort of links.
Yeah, I mean, and we've got quite a lot of information on our API and what it can do. So, and also if you've got a CRM system or an ERP system, you need to push data to that for reporting on particular things. That I don't see why that wouldn't be feasible. The whole thing is the whole platform is built with these capabilities that can enable people to talk to it. So we've got a chat system as well, all that sort of functionality to enable interoperability and COBE, IFC, you know, all the standard ones that are talked about. But yeah, it completely agree.
Yeah, brilliant, fantastic. So, Stuart, have we got any questions out on the? Hang on, I've got to find on the.
No, we've no questions come in yet. But let me ask one. In terms of the system, there's no. It will work on any infrastructure, as I understand it. So it's as good on rail as it is on capital build program, as it is on highway infrastructure. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Because I mean,
as well, yeah.
Say again.
It's particularly quick as well. It's not clunky because of the way the environment's being configured in the back end. I don't know the full technical details, so I can find out through Andy.
I mean, the you mentioned about the five clicks or less. I think that's a really good USP, and something you know, clients or EPCs are particularly keen on. Obviously, to cut down the amount of time people are spending looking for stuff and trying to well, I think determine what they're actually after. That, you know, as I say, a great USP, 5 clicks or less.
That's it. Yeah, it's you know, I've used other applications and it just takes so long. You've got to filter or sort and then find the component, and it's just yeah, really friendly environment.
I've got a question on hosting, Ollie. I'm presuming the system can be hosted in many different ways on your own local system if required, on a third-party system, or somewhere in the cloud, Azure or whatever it might be. I'm presuming those are the sort of areas that you can go for.
Yeah, so we can do a range of things. So we've got some clients in defense and nuclear, and they have to be particularly careful where they store their data. So it can be on premise. You know, some even say we want it just on a laptop because, you know, some of the people that we work with, it has to be so secure. And we can also have it on the cloud as well, depending on what it is that you want to achieve. Gotcha. So it can.
Yeah. I mean, having that flexibility massively important. I mean, one of the things that I think a lot of people forget when they're working on a government and critical national infrastructure project is where is that data? Yes, okay, you put it into your common data environment, but where is that common data environment? Where is it backed up to? Where does the information get routed through? So the information might come from my laptop, but because I work for an American company, the information that goes from my laptop gets routed back through my my company's VPN, etc., and then back out to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So it's always a tricky sort of thing to get right and to work out. Good to see you, Andy.
I was just saying, Ian, all the technical questions are probably more. Andy's got the real background on that, as the guru.
Excellent, good stuff. I see you haven't quite got to a raise this week, Andy.
Oh, this. No, it's I'm just relaxing. Coronavirus, you know, we're letting ourselves go a bit, aren't we? The unclean shaving. Yeah. remember the saying, Ian, a face full of fur makes them purr.
I've got a question coming, guys. Thanks to Gary for this. What are the top 3 challenges an owner versus EPC should consider for successful implementation? Who wants to take that one? Andy?
Okay, so just repeat it, Stuart. Sorry, I'm just a bit late to the meeting.
What are the top 3 challenges an owner versus EPC should consider for successful implementation?
Yeah, okay, so I've spent a bit of time representing client side, so I've got quite a bit of experience of this, and especially facing a kind of an EPC contractor, if you like. The owner really needs to, I would say, it's considering life after project, you know. During project delivery, it's, you know, it's very much in the interests of the contractor to just deliver deliverables. You know, they've got their own ways of doing that. But once the contractor goes away, the client's faced with, you know, holding the baby as such. Well, that's the facility and also all the records and all the data that goes along with that. And quite often the client's team is a lot smaller, a lot less, or I would say different skills to the contractor team. Certainly a lot leaner, a lot less time. So it's making that as simple as possible to manage going forwards, you know. So it's more on kind of they become the users, they're not the creators. So it needs to be as you know, user friendly as possible, if you like. The physical assets, obviously, they need to be familiar with. So yeah, it's very different, I would say. You know, they're the kind of consumers of everything.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. No more questions at the moment. Any other thoughts, Ian?
Well, I mean, it's sort of relevant in here. Wondered if anybody had downloaded and read the new National Infrastructure Commission's resilience questionnaire on, not questionnaire, sorry, report that came out yesterday. It included some of the findings of the commit project. You remember the one we did down at Rainham, Stuart?
Yes, indeed.
And we had, who are the, so we had Clicks and Links, Pixel Mill, we had Full Crow, we had
Topcon,
of course, Bentley,
Geoslam
as well, coming together with the Royal Engineers to do a project on how we can sort of link all the physical and the networks, system of systems, basically, all the cross-sector infrastructure. And it's quite pleasing to see that what we did there was published in there as a recommendation to UK government and also infrastructure, which is very pleasing. So it'd be nice to see a follow-up project on that. But I think the thing about this will be that we need to find a way of analysing and recording infrastructure networks. So here I'm starting to look back at Olli and Andy here, to be able to record that in a much more automated fashion, being able to, because I can see your system is able to bring in lots of data, analyse it, and then produce some pretty good visual results. The way we did our network analysis for that project was Excel.
Right.
We looked at a picture of the site, walked around it with a 360 camera and some photogrammetry and the like, and then filled an Excel spreadsheet. So being able to drag in data and network analysis would be quite interesting. I don't know what the BIM sort of world is on infrastructure accommodation environments and being able to create the network of those assets rather than just purely individual objects as such within a facility. Sorry, that's probably a massive amount of questions and conjecture in one place. But I'll let you throw some thoughts back at me on that one.
Oh, okay. Well, I suppose it's when you think about a network of systems, we're talking about, we're looking into enterprise architecture, the link of systems and the creation of something that you know is it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. So you're into don't want to get too technical, but you're creating almost like the concept of domains where you've got this particular piece of data that's to serve that particular case and this particular data that's to serve that particular case. And they all join in the middle with the common thread, you know, basically it's an asset hierarchy that ties everything together. But yeah, we you know, I mean, from our perspective, we get involved in a lot of this just with the projects that we do. They all tend to be the sort of organisations. We've got to deal with a lot of legacy data, a lot of legacy systems, and quite often, whilst it's not ideal to change all the systems that they currently got, can often shock a business, and you've got to do it gradually. It's got to be an evolution rather than a revolution. And where you've got a project, you've got so many stakeholders. I mean, you think of the big projects like HS2, I mean, the amount of systems they must use on that project, the amount of different tools and different processes. You've got to have an enterprise approach, and you need that common thread. And the more, I would say, the more general you get, the more sort of common you get. The less information, well, the less commonality there is, and it's more straightforward. And the more specialists you get when you go down a particular niche use case, that's where you start bringing in your more kind of local processes, if you like, a bit detailed. And they're just exchanging touch points to that. So yeah, you do need there's different ways of describing it. I'm trying to think of the buzzwords. What do they call it? I've heard of you know, the kind of
digital twin and the framework behind it, and
So a network, essentially, that's what we're trying to do. But you've got to think of your IT systems, your data, and your people in domains, and they all meet in a common domain, which is basically the what and the where, the asset ID. I don't know if that helps you.
I think you're right. I mean, that asset ID is massively important. I had quite an interesting argument with some guys over in India last year about asset IDs, and there's the two schools of thought. One, that it needs to be a GUID, something that is just randomly created, and one where it actually needs to mean something. And so their world of meaning something is because they wanted everything to mean something. So they looked at the Crossrail world originally and seen the fact that it had the location, the system, the asset type, or the classification, and then a unique, 0001 for the first one, etc., etc., etc. And I can see that as an ID framework in a private enclosed space. But when you start bringing that ID out into a public domain and having it available, printed on, written on, stamped on, labelled, or whatever it might be in the public space, it becomes quite insecure and quite dangerous. So there was we had a bit of an argument about it was a friendly discussion on what was good and what was bad in that space. So I'm presuming in your world, you take so I'm making a presumption that you take the ID that's given to you from the system that hands it over, and then if that ID doesn't exist on an object which is related to that particular object, you make the connection with the ID as such.
Well, it's both actually. I mean, the computer itself always uses a UUID or a GUID to join all objects. Doesn't matter whether it's a 3D asset or an asset tag or a bit of metadata or even a document or anything, an image. The databases, or most computer systems or web-based systems, use a GUID or a UUID anyway behind the scenes to make the kind of computing work. But we as humans, we love something we can understand, don't we? But that I'd call that a reference. So you've got a GUID, which is something that a computer can use. It's not much use to us because it just looks, you wouldn't be able to remember it. But the idea that we're talking about here is a reference. Now, I mean, we're doing projects where we have two. We have a functional and a physical, and we also have a GUID. So we've got a functional reference, which is its design reference and its intent. This is its systemized use. And then its functional is we're using, this particular bottle. It's a bottle when it's on the shelf, and when it goes in service, it's systemized, and then it has a role to play. A bad example, if that were a light bulb, it's just one of many. So it has a physical reference, which means nothing. When it gets systemized, it then has a function. It's now, could be a signal on a train system, on a train line, railway line, could be a signal line. It's just a bulb until it's plugged in. So once it's in service, then it becomes part of a system. It has a function. So your IDs are in the computing world, networking, everything's got some kind of a GUID or a UUID, but then we tend to give it a meaningful reference. I mean, I would call that a reference, and it's almost as good as metadata. It's an identifier that makes sense. And you're right, it's local, because every client has their own way of doing it. But it can be used to a local site.
Yeah. So are there any case studies out there at the moment that the audience here, myself, whatever, can have a good read at that have used systems so far that gives us a little bit of kind of like ROI information or anything like that?
ROI, that's the...
It's horrible, absolutely horrible to do that. But
from our perspective, so from our perspective, we actually do have some information that the clients actually done their own studies on and arrived at sort of the 25% mark. It's a bit difficult to sort of explain. It's a nuclear client. They have actually done their own studies and arrived at the 25% mark for through life. That's not just the construction, that's the sort of O&M as well. Just to give you some figures, the client, I think they possibly spend something like 260, 270 million on O&M staff, going out to site and maintain. You put a 25%, that's per year, you put a 25% saving on that, you're into quite a bit of money. And it's not as easy to calculate, but they have done a lot of studies themselves. And we will have a case study on that, won't we, Ollie, soon?
We will.
We might be able to publish when we go through with the client, but yeah.
That would be fantastic. Really looking forward to reading that. Because I think that's one of the things, it's all very well, you see a bit of technology or you see a solution, you think, oh, that sounds good. But I want to know, how did somebody else do it? For what problems were they solving when they went and found the BIM solution, and you guys, how did they find you? How did you and they go about solving that problem? Because we all know whenever we deploy things, there are always things that if we'd have done it again, perhaps we should have thought about this first or that first, or done it in this way around, or whatever it might be. It's all these little hints and tips and advice that when some of the guys out here go, that's what I want, if we can get them some good, solid sound advice on this is how it should be done, and this is how somebody else did it, and these are the things to do, these are the things to avoid, etc., then you basically arm them with enough information to go to the boss, the person with the purse strings, and go, look, boss, this is what I want to do, and this is how I want to do it, rather than finding their own path along the way. Give people confidence.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that we've experienced with one of the projects which is about to start. So can't say who it is, but they have received a lot of BIM models, and when they received them, they didn't know what to do with them. And they've had certain contractors who, well, at the time, they're no longer around now, quite big contractors as well, populating certain things in a certain format, and then not aligning to the BIM model, but then wanting advice on when they've populated the BIM model, how do we use it? So our guidance piece as consultants and also as technology implementation guys in this field, we're basically doing the whole thing. So the consultancy piece and also ensuring that the consultancy aligns to technology. So in terms of getting some case studies out there, we should be able to turn that around within, well, we'll see, maybe 5 to 6 months, maybe less than that.
Yeah, quite long. Just add there, Ollie, that just the way that we work, I think you've got to be flexible. So when you work with large organisations, you've got to understand things like how to hook into enterprise systems, how to work and be flexible and be modular and be adaptable. And also to provide that service, a lot of these clients, they do need hand-holding to some extent. So you've got to be prepared to do that and hand-hold and help them through. So you've got to be flexible with technology. You might not always get what you want, but you've got to find a way of working with what they've got, make it as painless as possible, because we're quite dynamic, so we can handle change, but the slightest little change in a large organisation can, create a lot of waves, and you've got to be careful you don't upset the apple cart of the people working there, not the person paying the bill. It happens to be the people below them that are sort of faced with this. So keep changes simply. It's nice to have some really, see some real efficiencies brought to a company where people, see a bit of new tech, but you can't be too groundbreaking either. There's a lot of easy things that can be done that can make a lot of difference in a big organisation, and sometimes it's just about, starting off and getting those easy wins. It's just about visualising and passing data around in the right formats and being able to gather it from various systems and integrate it.
Yeah, I mean, just on that point, Andy, is around, you know, some of the SharePoint integration that we're doing and some of the workflows that we're building to other systems and pulling documents and, you know, passing or converting IFCs or Revit to IFC. So you've got the capacity to look at a BIM model, even if you haven't got BIM tools. All that sort of stuff adds real value.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I noticed that it's pretty much time at the bar, so we're going to have to bring the official side of this to a close. But we will, of course, have a minor lock-in here on the Commit Happy Hour and allow the conversations and chat to go a little bit further off-piste as we go towards the end of the week. So, Stuart, is there anything you want to say to the team before we finish the recording?
Let me just finish off, if I may. Thank you very much for the questions for those that sent them over. Again, just to talk about the user group, just get in contact with me if you have some interest in that. I will be contacting everybody that participated previously or this morning in the next few days. And in addition, I'd like to say thanks to Olli for presenting, attendees, and thanks for the questions. Join us next week for another session. And here we are. Where are we? We have, the next one we've got is reducing damage to underground utility infrastructure. And on the 12th of June, we've got e-signature solution, NN e-signature solution for construction. I'm trying to look several weeks ahead now and managing to do that. We've got quite a few in the pipeline beyond that are TBC, so watch out for that. I'm asking, can you join the conversation? All the past webinars, I keep getting asked this question, all the past webinars are available on the website. But if you have any questions in the meanwhile, do get in touch. And now's the opportunity to join the free bar, continue the conversation and get yourselves into the oldest inn in England. So thanks again to everybody. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Ollie. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, Ian. Yeah, a couple of good thank yous coming as well from the audiences, and thanks very much for joining us. So we'll continue now in the extra happy hour. Thank you.
Stay safe.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers. Stuart, is that oldest in England near you?